Welcome to the Canada and Civic podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. Hi, innovators. We are super lucky today. We have Eli Fathi here with us, who is the co-founder and CEO of MindBridge AI. In fact, this is his 7th startup. So on Thursday, 350 people got up to go to work, and those are because of all of Eli's different startups that he has been bringing. He's contributed over $500 million. So he knows his stuff. There's tons we can learn from him. We are really, really lucky to have him. He's so active in the community. In fact, he has won numerous awards from different types of areas, whether it's from the Startup Canada, whether it's from the Civic Entrepreneurship, whether it's from the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, you name it, he's got those awards. Eli, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm very excited to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Did I miss anything in the intro? Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners? We have a huge international base.
The only thing is to say that I also had 3 exits during this journey. And the best one is yet to come.
Oh, wow. Oh, now I'm even more intrigued. So what exactly is MindBridge AI, and how did you come up with this name?
So MindBridge AI is a company that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to uncover anomalies or irregularities in data. Simple as that. Now, the question is, what type of data and what do we do with it? That's really the story behind the story. But the name, we wanted to come up with the name that really showed the bridge between the artificial intelligence and the real world. So take the mind and connect it into the artificial world. And that's really what, even if you look at our logo, it has a bridge associated with it.
I love that. I always find it fascinating to hear how people came up with the name. So how did all of this come about? So you've got this AI machine learning, irregularities in data. So to your point, it's what kind of data do you look at? Is it all types of data, or is there certain areas that you focus on, only in finances or customer data? What kind of data do we look at?
So one of the important things of a small company is focus. If you try to boil the ocean, you will get nothing. So what you have to do is start somewhere. Our starting point was, let's look at what market has not been disrupted for many years. And since we're using artificial intelligence, we wanted to really tackle a white-collar profession, and especially an industry that has not been disrupted for many, many years. And the one that appeared to be the most attractive from our perspective was the the CPA world, where the same way that has been done, the process that had been done 100 years ago is being done today the same way. And this is what we tackle. So in the first case that we are dealing with is we are addressing audit, both external and internal audit. And this is what we are tackling. And the data that we are using is obviously the financial data of a company, the journal ledger, the AP, the AR. So our first focus is financial data.
Wow. I have not heard anyone come up with something for the accounting and audit world. That is kind of insane. You're right. I don't think anything's changed. I mean, there's been some software that's been produced, but yeah. So this is for like large corporate clients. Is that what you're targeting and you're focusing on?
We are focusing on 2 areas. One, what we call the external audit world, and 2, the internal audit world. If you look at the external audit world, so let's look at the typical scenario. What happens? A company, and obviously the audit, who does audits? Audits are being done by mid-sized companies, non-profit companies, and of course, publicly traded companies. If you look around, there are 3.2 million audits done worldwide. So these are the people that are going to provide information to their shareholders about the operations of the company. So if you look now at the first market, which is the external audit market, what do they do? What happened 100 years ago when the people started to demand companies to do an audit? They said, well, we're investing in these companies, being a shareholder. It doesn't have to be a publicly traded company, but you want to verify how well the company is functioning. So what do? They start to look at the books. But if you look at the books themselves and you try to analyze the data, you have to have almost the same amount of people working on the analysis than the people that prepare the information. So obviously this is not feasible. So 100 years ago, they came up with the idea of reasonable assurance, and they used the term to enable external auditors to just do a small selection of the data, and by reasoning of reasonable assurance, say if this information is accurate, by assumption that the rest of information is correct. And really, this could have worked 100 years ago, 50 years ago. But over the last 20 years, what has happened? You have internet, you have big data, you have hackers, you have ERP system, you have many people touching the data. So the provenance of the data, the integrity of the data is unknown. And as a result, what has happened, the information that is being processed by the external auditors, it's very limited, and as a result, it lends itself to very limited coverage, which result in turn to errors being undetected. As a matter of fact, the Association of Professional Certified Examiners identified that each year, worldwide, we lose $3 trillion due to errors and fraud that are being uncovered. And this is what we're trying to tackle.
Wow, 3 trillion, eh? I had no idea it was that big of a number for fraud and, internal control. That's crazy.
So from what we are saying, machine and artificial intelligence, we cannot detect intent. Error plus intent is fraud. So fraud is really left to the courts to decide the intent, but we definitely can detect errors and irregularities in the data. And you'll be very surprised when people are looking at us and say, wow, how is it possible? Do you want us to tell you some information about the data? And the relationship between the trees and the forest. Sometimes when you look at the forest, you don't see the trees and vice versa. But the funny thing is, with artificial intelligence, we can look at the trees and can tell you the forest. And people are surprised. I'm saying, well, do you want us to tell you the level of authority and what kind of level each manager is allowed to approve? And they said, we don't need to, because we can tell from the data what's going on, because we can see when is your payroll, we can see for individual, when are you paying. Obviously, we can tell that this individual is higher value than other people in the company and so on. So it's a very exciting. When you read the data, the signals inside the data, it's quite very fascinating, because I just had a speech yesterday on a panel, and the question was, well, is big data a problem? Yes, big data is a problem, but it's also a blessing for AI, because the big data gives you information that you can mine and provide results. So it's a really exciting time that we are now facing with the AI and the machine learning aspect.
I can imagine that CEOs, CFOs, HR professionals, besides accountants, must love this solution that you've got. Basically have the eyes at the back of their head. Like, you're actually protecting them from not being able to see what they can't see. Because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And companies have gone down for a lot when they are unaware of something. So this is huge.
It is. If you really look at the process today, and let's look at the journey. What happens is today, you are looking at the hindsight. In other words, when you finish the year or the quarter, you now take the data and give it to the auditor to look at it. So the horse left the barn, the door is open, the train left the station, and now you're looking in hindsight what happened. What we are doing right now is the insights. Near real we can do real time. It's a function of how much computer resources you want to provide. But now you're moving from hindsight to insight. right? So now I can tell you within a very short period of time, and it's a function of, as I said, the computing resources that you want to address. We can tell you the insight immediately. So within a day, within half an hour, or within a week. So situations, when we're dealing with this kind of situation, it's not that bad if you look at very near real time. The next level is going to be the foresight, the predictive. And that's going to happen within the next 2 years. And this is where the interest is, right? So you're moving from hindsight to insight to foresight. And the foresight is really when you are assessing and predicting something that will happen before it happens. And this is really the holy grail, right? This is where you want to get to. Right now, with the current situation, the tools and the system and the process that exist, the funny thing is that it takes 32 months to detect a problem. So in other words, there's almost 3 audit cycles before you can detect a major fraud or any fraud. That's how likely it is to occur, 32 months. And by that time, the damage has occurred. Furthermore, the damage associated with fraud and major anomalies like that, it follows the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the damage happen in the last 20% of the time. So detecting errors and problems early on is extremely beneficial to the company.
No, that's amazing. I love that. Hindsight to insights to foresights. The holy grail. Actually, I really wish my my tarot card reader could actually get that foresight for me.
Don't all of us wish that.
I would love that. That magic 8-ball. Really wish I had that foresight. Because you can only know what you know, right? So that's brilliant. So being that this is all about machine learning and artificial intelligence, so you can actually are operating on clients around the world, or is it just specifically only in Canada right now? Like, where exactly is?
We have right now 130 customers in 6 countries around the world. We launched the product just a year ago, exactly a year ago. And since then, we've been getting incredible interest from around the world. We are very excited about the way that we are being perceived, but we are changing the way that things have been done in the last 100 years. And we are very excited to be part of this revolution.
I love that. I love that you're disrupting this area. This is fantastic. CPAs are going to be so excited. I'm also a CPA, so I can tell you, we're excited. So that's amazing. So wait, 1 year ago, and then you've 130 customers in 6 different countries. I can see it. It's a firecracker. It's waiting to kind of explode. This is brilliant. So how did you get it off the ground so quickly?
So it's always nice. I said that this is my 7th company. And the first thing so the company was started by one of my mentees. And I was just coming out of my last exit. And I was looking for the next basically great idea. And when he approached me to join him, I was just, as I said, off my last exit. And I said, wow, this is a big market. So that I joined full time as a partner and the CEO. And the first thing that I've done, so we were 3 people. I brought with me a number of people that already were working with me. And the first thing that I've done, said, what do we need? What we need is a really smart CTO. And I sent an email through a friend to the former chief architect of IBM Watson Analytics, who already himself has been a startup guy. He had 200 people working for him, and he was just finishing the product, Watson Analytics. And it took 9 months, and he joined us. And that was amazing to have someone of his stature. From my perspective, is the best CTO in North America right now in this area. He's done that 3 times before. So that was incredible coup for us to accomplish, especially given that we were when he joined us, we were only 6 people in the company. The next thing that we've done was raise seed money, and we raised some seed money, And then we started to build the different engines. So right now in the company, we have 4 engines. We have the corporate engine. We have the product engine. Then we have the growth engine. And then finally, we have the solution engine. So over the past basically 2 years, we've built these kind of engines. Today, we are at 46 people, with people, most of them in Ottawa. The majority are in Ottawa. We have a couple of people in the US and one person in Europe. But we are expanding rapidly, and we're about to raise our A round to increase the rocket fuel for the company.
That's amazing. So this is definitely a B2B type of solution.
Yes. We are selling right now to external auditor, the CPA world. We are selling to internal auditors, but we're also selling to financial institutions. We right now we have Bank of Canada is one of our customers. We have a number of large multinationals as our customers, and our focus, aside from the CPA world, is on the financial sector, the financial institution, the FI sector, because they are the ones that need this kind of solution extremely urgently. So it's very exciting for us.
Oh, I love that. And there's so much going on in this, across all the different industries. So in particular about machine learning and artificial intelligence, what excites you most about this industry? I mean, there's so much in the press these days about what's going on, what's not. But from your perspective, what really excites you most about it?
So the cool thing about machine learning, artificial intelligence, it existed for the past 50 years, since 1955. And there were always 2 schools of thoughts. One was the singularity, where what is artificial intelligence? Is a machine imitating human, right? That's what, at the end of the day, if you want to boil it to 3 words, it's machine imitating human, right? So you've seen that since 1955, where there was a book called Augmenting Human Intelligence. And this is the way that I believe right now is the right way. A singularity where machine will be equivalent to human and surpass human. The pundits are talking about it in the year 2045. But let's address the machine augmenting human intelligence. The cool thing is that if you look at tasks, and let's take a simple task. If you have a baby, 1.5-year-old, or 2-year-old, you can teach her very easily the difference between a cat and a dog, right? It won't take too long, and they will learn the difference between them, and they can differentiate. Google, a couple of years ago, they were trying to see, let's identify cat and dogs in YouTube. And they spent, in terms of computing time, about 100 hours of computing time for the machine to detect the difference between the cat and the dog. So certain functions are good for computers and certain functions are good for human, right? So the reasoning is very good for human. Now, over the last 50 years, there were a lot of what is called winters and springs associated with AI, where there were promises that AI is going to change the world, and then it faltered. But everything changed in 2014 when a company called DeepMind in the UK had a game that they showed that can play and win on its own without over a few days, it was able to demonstrate that they can, the computer itself can win the game. And Google ended up buying them. It was a company called DeepMind, and Google bought them for 400 million pounds. Mm-hmm. Since then, they even came to another milestone, this time as a Google company. There is a game called Go, a Chinese game, which it's the intent of the game is like a chessboard where you have black and white marbles, and you try to take the area from your opponent and basically capture their marble and capture the area. And AlphaGo Zero, basically, just about a year ago, I was able to accomplish the winning to become a winner without any human intervention. So remember, I was talking about big data, and big data is the energy, the food that you're giving the machine learning to learn. You need what is known as labeled data because you need to know what to teach. But what AlphaGo Zero done is that they've done it without providing them any data. It was just on its own. And these algorithms that have been around for many years, obviously, we got to the level now that they are very sophisticated. And that's the exciting part about AI. We are moving very fast to the level that, aside from just the normal learning on itself, the algorithms are becoming really sophisticated where you can do, I don't want to say reasoning because we are far away from singularity, but there is more low-level reasoning that the machine can start to do, and this is really the exciting part. So not only addressing the labor-intensive, computational-intensive tasks, but rather doing a little bit more than that. And as time progresses, the algorithms improve more and more. We're going to see a lot more than that. And currently, you'll be surprised, in our life right now, there are dozens and dozens of AI-based systems that are available that we are using. Siri is an example. Alexa is another example. When you buy something from Amazon and they give you the prediction, you should like this book as well. This is all AI-based applications that are currently in use.
No, I love that. It's funny because I always say this. If we think the pace of change is fast now, we're actually at the slowest part of the curve. It's only going to accelerate. And to your stories that you're building upon from DeepMind and the AlphaGo and so on, you can see how everything keeps building on top of each other and we're getting faster and faster and faster. So this is really amazing.
It is amazing, and it's very exciting to be in this area. And from my perspective, being a Canadian, I'm very excited to push and wave the flag for Canada, what we're trying to do. As a matter of fact, I had an op-ed with the CEO of Startup Canada. I'm on their board. In November, we had an op-ed about Canada positioning in AI in the world and where do we stand. Canada right now has a great opportunity to be one of the leaders in this AI in the world. And I think it's a very exciting opportunity for Canada by itself, not let the rest of the world. But we really are doing really well as Canadian companies in this field.
Oh, I agree. And by the way, just for our listeners to know, so I was chatting with Eli beforehand because I was dying to know where his accent was from because back when I worked at Amdocs, I became very familiar with Israeli accents. So if you're wondering where his accent is from, it is from beautiful Israel. So yes, he's a worldwide traveler as well. So he actually has a very global perspective of things.
Yeah, I really feel blessed to be helping, because one of the things that I care about is helping other people. I mentor a lot of people. I spend a lot of time volunteering in different boards, a nonprofit as well as for-profit. And it's very exciting to give back to the community.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Eli, you're such a fascinating individual. There's so much we can learn, especially with 7 startups under your belt. I mean, you are kind of like one of those, master belts. That's for sure. Especially when you've contributed already like $500 million. Like, the word billion is so big to me. So this is like mind blowing. So there's so much we can learn. What are some things that, of a lesson learned that you could share that was, that you kind of have kept with you? Or has resonated forever?
Well, my philosophy is very simple. I think that as an individual, you have to build your own credibility. So for me, integrity is number one. So if you look at leadership, when I talk to people, and if you look at our mantra in the company, I have 10 mantras, and it's all about being leader and not manager. We don't look for managers, look for leaders. And my first point is do good. Make a difference. You really have to make every day that you get up from bed, make a difference. You have to make a difference. As individual, I said to everybody, you must be and act is you are the CEO of your own domain. Every individual, no matter what you do, if you clean the floor or if the CEO or chairman of the board, behave as if it's your domain and it's your duty to make it successful. I have a saying that I tell the people, ask for forgiveness, not permission. Don't really try to micromanage, but allow people, if you give them the direction, tell them the hill that you want to capture, let them go and capture it. I also like people to basically offer, encourage. The worst thing that can be done, everybody can criticize. It's very easy to criticize. Everyone has an opinion. We're all smart people. No one has monopoly on intelligence. And it's easy to criticize. But criticism is negative. Rather, I much prefer that you encourage and mentor everybody. And you empower people to take action and be solution-oriented. It's so important, when you are looking at people, to find people that always solve problems. That's why Google always like to hire engineers. They say 60% of all the people are engineers because they are learning how to solve problems. As you also have to be part of a team. And Sun Microsystem, McKinley used to say the famous saying, agree and commit, disagree and commit. So agree and commit is good, but also when you disagree, you do not always have to get your own way. I like to say eyes on, hands off. Don't micromanage. Let people do their own stuff. And as you know, focus. We talked about it. You cannot just boil the ocean. And I think this is really important. But I also have philosophy about building your own credibility. And one of the things, I had a speech in the convocation. I was alumnus of the year at Algonquin College. And the first thing that I told them, don't ever compare yourself against others. The problem that I see in companies, and this is really detrimental to the success of the company, but more importantly to the success of individual, where they compare themselves against somebody else. And I said, guys, how can you do it? There's always another Bill Gates. Bill Gates is the most richest person in the world, but he flip-flops with few other people, right? And we see Jeff Bezos may overtake him. So the question is, there's always somebody smarter than you, richer than you, taller than you, and so on. How are you going to compare? If you do that, you'll never succeed. Just chart your own course and go after it. And never stop learning. The day that you stop learning, you might as well stop living, because it makes no sense. And the things that I like to tell people, think out of the box, be different, and most importantly, challenge the status quo. Don't accept things as they are. That's why innovation takes place, because people say, I don't like it. I don't like it the way it's done now, and I'm going to change it. And you have to think big. And this is, if you want to reach Mount Everest, you have to think big. You have to continue to do that. And these are kind of the philosophies that I believe in, and I promote to my children, and I promote to the people that I mentor, and I mentor a lot of people.
These are such amazing value bombs. These are beautiful. And I really believe that you really need to build your own credibility. This is what I tell a lot of my coaching clients too, is that, don't wait for your boss or HR to tell you about your career. Take control of your career. Where do you want to go? And look beyond the landscape of just your current company. Look at the marketplace, where it's going, and really start to have a voice and an opinion about it. So these are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of these tips.
Oh, it's fun.
No, these are great. Now, speaking of tips, can you, since you are a 7-time, champion heavyweight in the startup world, can you share a sales or a marketing tip in particular?
Yes, there are two that I will share. One, always ask at the end, 10 minutes before the end of the discussion. If it's a phone conversation, if it is a meeting, always ask the question, what are the next steps? It's your responsibility to set up the chart and the course for the next, whatever it is, phone call, email. You always have to ask, so what's the next step? And the other one that young salespeople don't know is always ask for the order, always ask for the order, and make sure that when you get the answer, stop talking. A lot of people, they just don't, they get the order and they continue to talk, and then they get into problem and they lose it. So once the customer said, I got the order, you have the PO, stop talking and talk about everything else except about this. So these are the key steps that I tell young sales people. These are the 3 things that you must do if you want to be successful.
I love that. Why do you think that we forget to ask for the order? Is it because we're shy?
I think so. In many cases, we are shy, but you don't get to a conclusion. You need to be able. I know that there is a very interesting movie, and it says ABC: always be right. It's always be calling, always be closing, always be closing. You have to continue with this side of it. ABC. Remember, always be closing.
I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. And being that, you are so involved in the community, is there any tools or resources that you recommend other startups or entrepreneurs to kind of tap into, or was there any tools that you kind of wish that is around that people could utilize?
Nowadays, there's quite a lot online, and there's the meetups. There's almost 20 years ago, 10 years ago, that was not the case. But nowadays, you have meetups on almost every topic. If it's marketing, if it's sales, if it's engineering, whatever it is, you have a meetup. Obviously, you should go to the association. But what I find also very important to me is meeting with small mentor. You need a small team around you, and also include a mentor associated with that. Advisors, a small team of advisors, and one mentor especially. I think that if you want to be successful, having a mentor is absolutely vital. I have mentors, I have advisors that I rely on all the time, because no matter how smart you are, you don't know everything. Companies right now are international. Look, we are in 6 countries. You have all kinds of legal, accounting, technology, marketing, sales. We don't know everything. We have to rely on people that are expert in certain areas and get the advice. So having access to mentorship is absolutely vital. The other thing that I do also is listen to books. Read what other people are thinking. I say listen because I don't really have time to read a lot aside from work. So whenever I have access to driving in the car or waiting for somebody, you can listen to the book, and especially books that are what other people, smart people, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Howard Schultz, Sheryl Sandberg. Read all of their books and listen to what advice they have.
Oh, that's amazing. So I guess my next follow-up question is that, do you have a book that you recommend?
I listen to about at least one book every 2 weeks, and there are a number of them that I like. The one, and because they cover different spectrum, as I said, it's a different spectrum. One thing that I've been reading, and I read it 2 years ago, and I continue to read it again, is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And this is really, really valuable because it teaches you how to get to form habits. Especially if you want to be very successful, that's something that you really want to do. And I read many of these. As I said, I read books on marketing. I read books on the people that are successful. I just want to make sure that I have a big breadth of knowledge, which is not specific. I would not go and just read about, let's say, on AI just to learn something specifically. At the level that I'm looking right now, I want to get a very high level perspective of what things around and what are the key elements that I need to do in my position as the CEO to make sure that I can move to the next level. I love the book by Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosen about how Google works. Again, I learned I can tell you, I'll share with you one nugget. Well, what I say is that's interesting. So I do have one nugget from that book of Google, how Google works. So Eric Schmidt and they talk about the fact that what happens is when people leave university, right? What do? They select the job, right? They go and select. I like to do, let's say, in cooking or something, and then they go in and select something narrow. Then they select the company. So they go and select whatever they have first, then select the company, and then select the industry. And Eric Schmidt is saying, no, that's the wrong way. You start with the market, with the sector. Why? Because rising tides raises all boats. So you start with that. Then you select the company, and you want to select a company that you know, and they actually use the analogy of surfing, and say you can take the wave and surf it all the way to land, right? And then you select what the position. And then they have an antidote on that, and they're talking about the story about Sheryl Sandberg, that she came to 2004. She came to Eric and said, Eric, there's this small company called Facebook, and they're growing really fast, and they asked me to join, and I don't know, there's no particular position. What shall I do? And he said, Sheryl, when somebody offer you a position on the rocket ship, don't ask which seat you get on.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
I find that from a book, this is all I remember. So the whole book, right? Interesting book, but I remember that particular one. So one nugget from a book is all you need, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to pick up this book for sure because you've got me very intrigued by it. But I love reading these types of books because it gives you a different perspective that you may never have seen before. We end up getting into our own little worlds, and it gets stuck in groupthink. So I love being inspired by a new story. This is great. This is great. So, Eli, how do you manage it all? You've got all these different communities. You've got your business that you're CEO of. You've got your family. You've got all these mentorees. You've got all these different, you speak on key stages all the time. How do you manage it all? Is there a popular productivity tool that you use to kind of keep on top of things?
I sleep less. That's what I say. I just sleep a little bit less. I'm very blessed, to be honest. I'm very, very blessed that my wife has been supporting me. And I have to share with you the story. So there I am, my first startup, right? I was at the RCMP. I had a fantastic position. And I was the first data engineer at the RCMP. And I loved every minute of it. But I find that it was not challenging me enough. And I love the people. I love what the whole structure. It was really one of the best time of my life, where I was not the CEO or in a high level position, but it was fantastic. And then somehow the bug of entrepreneurship hit me, and one of my professors had a company, a dormant consulting company, and I got interested in that. And I said, I will leave a secure job to go and join you. And I was employee number one. And my daughter was just born. And a week later, I left a secure job to go on a 3-month contract. And when I asked my wife before, I said, can I do it? And she said, sure, go ahead. And she supported me ever since. As a matter of fact, in the last startup that we sold to SurveyMonkey and this startup, she's working with me. She goes to work with me every day, and we stay until 7, 8, or 9 in the office. So I'm very blessed that she's supporting me like that. My children are grown up, and they are in another country. So we basically, my wife and I, work very hard, and then we go for dinner together and spend the time together. So, and I do want to give back to the community. So I literally do sleep less and get to support other people, because I want to see other people in the community succeed as well. And to me, making a difference in the life of one individual is very rewarding. And I have a lot of people that call me back and say, you changed my life. And I'm happy. I'm happy for them, but I'm also happy that I make a difference in the community. And it's true. It's a lot better to give than receive. I find that this is highly rewarding for me.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know what? You've definitely made an impact on my life. That's for sure. But I have to tell you, this is probably the best answer ever. What's your best productivity tool? And it's your wife. That's what I took away from that. But that is awesome. Is there a CEO or a company that you watch or follow closely, or is it Google? I'm guessing.
Yes, absolutely. I watch Google very carefully because I like the philosophy. I mentioned a few of them, right? The philosophy that you need to have solution-oriented people. In their case, they hire a lot of engineers. I really look for solution-oriented people. So I see how they are diversifying and how they had focus, diversify, but how they run the company. And it's a good way if you do want to read the book and you have a chance. There are many books, but this one gives you really an overview about how they function at a high level. And it's a company that I definitely every company should try to emulate to be the success that they have accomplished.
Oh, I can't wait to read that. And for our listeners, I'll definitely put it in our show notes as well, so we all have it at our fingertips. So is there a personal habit that helps you stay productive? I mean, I know you said you sleep less, but do you meditate? Do you work out? Like, is there a personal habit? I
tend to work out at home before I go to the office. And then at night, my wife and I try to, in the summer especially, when the weather is good, we go for walks. And the most important thing for me is that I spend time with my wife. I call my children on daily basis. So we stay in touch with the family. So that's what keeps me grounded, basically, the family. So to me, there is two things, the family and then work. And that's and then, of course, the community, which is the larger family, right? So you have the family, but the larger family as well.
Oh, that's amazing. You're such an absolute inspiration. So is there a favorite Canadian? We've got a lot of international listeners out there. And being that I keep laughing about now that we've got the pot legalized, it's another reason for them to come to Canada to visit. But I know there's so many amazing cities, towns, festivals, restaurants. So is there anything that you could recommend?
In terms of restaurants in Ottawa, I can tell you the best Thai food from my perspective is a restaurant called Bang Thai. In terms of Chinese food, Royal Treasures. What other ethnic food there is? In terms of Italian, let's see. There's so many of them. There's a lot. I don't know. There's just too many to name. Steakhouse. There is all kind of, but the two ethnic that I mentioned are really, they are small restaurants, but fantastic. Of course, in Ottawa, we have a lot of Vietnamese. If you like pho, there's a lot of Vietnamese. So in Chinatown, we have a lot of these little restaurants that serve. It's everywhere. I'm sure that in Toronto as well. And the pho, it's kind of wonderful.
Well, my friend Jessie Lynn in Ottawa is going to be very excited to hear all these recommendations because I know she listens quite a bit too. So that's amazing. So finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
So on LinkedIn, I have over 10,000 connections. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story. About 4 years ago, LinkedIn invited a number of people to talk about their next move, and they had about 10 of us. And towards the end, they asked each one, when did you join and what number are you on? So one of them was number 3 million and a half, let's say. The other one was 1.3 million and so on. when it got to me, I really did not know that I was number 8,000. So I was a superstar on LinkedIn. But somebody invited me at 70, I think in 2006 or something like that. And I never used it for about 3-4 years, but I was number 8,000. It was just less shy of 8,000.
That's amazing. How do you find that? I'm now going to look at my LinkedIn.
How do you find it? You have to look at the top, and it has, when you look at it, it actually has a number for you. I don't know now because they probably have over 100 million, but I think I'm something like 7,980, something like that.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh, I love that. Oh, it's amazing. All right. So our listeners can connect with you on LinkedIn. So I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well.
Cool. I'm very excited. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Oh, no, you were brilliant. Really, really enjoyed having you. I have learned so much, and I know all of our listeners are going to have learned so much from you. You gave us so many different perspectives to think about. You're definitely an inspiration.
Oh, that's my pleasure, and anything that I can do to help the community. As I said, every one of us, it's our obligation, not just to do work, but to make a difference in the life of other people. So I'm very excited that you invited me to your show. Good luck with it. You're doing a fantastic service to Canada and to all the individuals that you're interviewing, as well as to the people that are listening. So kudos to you, and wonderful that you have been doing that. It's very nice of you.
Why, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks again for joining us this week. It's been a blast as usual. Next week, we've got a really interesting guest. Here's a quick sneak peek.
There are literally hundreds of people dying a year from adverse drug reactions that could be caught simply if a doctor would always, without fail, had access to their information before they treated them, right? But it's just not possible in the current situation. So, I mean, aside from the huge, market opportunity, I think the bigger thing is the fact that we can improve healthcare outcomes through blockchain technology, which is a huge, huge win for us.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in and tuning in this week. Next week, we've got another really cool episode. I hope you enjoyed the sneak peek. I'm going to try to do this and see how this works. If you guys are interested, like the little sneak teasers, let me know. I'd love to hear back from all of you. And don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review. And let me know if you know of another Canadian innovator that's doing something really cool around the world. Let's get them showcased. Or if there's an innovation trend that you would like to specifically focus on. Anyways, looking forward to hearing from all of you, and talk to you next week. Cheers.